right now on Higher Journeys Radio with Alexis Brooks. When it comes to understanding our world, our universe, our reality, what do numbers have to do with it? More importantly, why are numbers playing such a prominent role, it seems, in many of our lives right now? In this, our annual year in review and New Year forecast with numerologist Sharon Millstein, we take a deeper look at the role numbers are playing in our lives. Are we getting just a taste of what's to come in 2018? You may be surprised at what Sharon had to say, so buckle up and have a listen. Well, it's that time of year again, time for our annual year in review and forecast for this upcoming 2-year with our friend, numerologist, spiritual teacher, and student of Classroom Earth, and that's Sharon Millstein. Sharon, welcome back to the show, my dear.
Oh, thank you for having me be here. I'm here now. Be here now. Here I am.
There you are. And it's been about a year since we last spoke, and we just finished having a little catch-up chat. So we're going to get into all of the things, not only that have been going on with you, but some the good, the bad, the ugly, the fun, the adventurous of what is coming. But we're going to do a little bit of a review before we get into it. You know, this is a show that I always look forward to with you, Sharon. This is our 5th year. This is our 5th year doing this annual forecast by the numbers. And what I love each year is that although you are giving us from a numerological perspective what you sense is coming for the following year, you always give us so much more. Your spiritual wisdom, your psychic sense, and you always leave us with a positive message to take with us. So no matter how gloomy or frightening our world can be, you always leave us with something positive. So given the topsy-turvy year we've seen as we wind down with 2017, I certainly hope that what you see for the coming year will include some goodies as well. But, and this is a big but, we've got a lot of unsettling things on the table right now as far as our little blue planet is concerned. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't discuss some of these things in proper context, of course. So let's begin with a review of 2017, the 1 year. I'm going to put you on the spot, Sharon. If you could sum up in one word what 2017 has meant to you, what would that be?
Water.
Water.
That's what I predicted for this 2017. And by the way, I'd like to mention that today is December 18th. It's very important so that we have that down historically right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
water. So let's elaborate on that.
Yeah, I predicted water, and I also predicted not enough water as much as I did an overabundance of water, and we saw that with all the hurricanes that happened, Harvey and Irma, Maria, and all the floods that happened for the people in Texas and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and many other places, Florida, and so that was devastating. As much as I like to be correct in my predictions, it hurts me when I know that people are suffering because I am so empathic. I also predicted not enough water when you asked me, are you talking about a lot of water? Or I said both. And then in the West Coast here, where I am in the Southwest, there's been amazing fires. You know, record-breaking fires, and we just lost a fireman the other day, which is very sad. So we are having a tremendous drought here in New Mexico, and there's a little town that I did mention last time, but I thought it was temporary, but just read the headlines in the newspaper this week about Quest, New Mexico, which is just north of us here in Taos, and they have no water. They've had no water, and it's been a problem since last year. And there are multiple places that are having either water that is not clean enough or not enough water or then too much water. So this year, water. And what does water also mean? It has to do with the fluidness. It has to do with movement. It's an organic flow. And we see that also politically and otherwise.
Very interesting. I was just going to ask you, because whenever we're talking, especially you and I, Sharon, whenever we're talking about these sorts of things, numbers, water, fire, there seems to be an esoteric as well as an exoteric significance. So I'm glad that you brought that up, fluid. Well, we're going to get into the political stuff, but this 1 year has been a year of scandals like we've never seen before. I'm speaking, of course, of the still unfolding saga of those accused of sexual harassment. Extreme weather events like the hurricanes that you just mentioned, the wildfires of California. One is still going as we speak. I believe it's called Thomas. The political turmoil continues to rise. Sharon, when you said last year that the 1 year is what sets the precedent, it is, to quote you, the number that all the other numbers follow. And I have to tell you, that's a little unnerving given what we've seen. So let's dive in a little deeper at this point. What on earth is going on?
Well, beside the fires, the floods, the hurricanes, the president's ego, his staff his cabinet and staff that was fired and resigned, all during the time that I also predicted, mostly from July to the end of September is when he fired a lot of these people. That was also a natural flow. There has been a movement that has been growing with power. We talked about that as well last year. I talked about the power of the people, and we referenced North Dakota as one of the people powering situations with the pipeline, and how people were, fighting and at the front line, and so were the vets at the front line fighting the government. And so we talked about the power of the people, and it has continued, and especially with women right now. We always had the boys' club, but now we have the girls' club. And the thing is that all of this has been sort of a conspiracy of secrecy. And this is what I'm also looking for into the future. A very metaphysical transition is happening right now. Mm-hmm. But it has to do with the swing of the seesaw. It has to do with the women that are coming forward and knocking down very powerful men like Harvey Weinstein, Bill O'Reilly, Matt Lauer, Charlie Rose, Kevin Spacey, Mario Batali, Dustin Hoffman, and many more. I mean, these are huge men. Yeah. And I have to say this to you right now and to the audience. Me too.
Me too?
Yeah. It's a Me Too movement right now. This conspiracy of secrecy, as they always mention, the director's couch. I mean, it's been something that we've all known, and especially women, how we've had to navigate our workplaces and such to try to support our families, and that's all we had in mind. But we also have been victims of inappropriate behavior, embarrassing.
May I ask you a question, Sharon? I obviously am familiar with the movement of Me Too, but when you said that, are you referencing yourself?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, where you walk down the street, and many years ago, I dressed up with high heels up and down subways and, felt attractive, younger, healthier, and catcalls would be, happening, whistles from construction workers at the job. There was a time that I was called up. I've managed many businesses, and at this point, and I don't want to mention it, although maybe I should because that's what's happening right now, it has to do with really putting out reality and the truth. And that's what we're going into next year, which we'll talk about later. But it all has to do with unveiling the truth. I remember I was managing a section of this business, and I was called up by the owner, who was different, maybe 1 or 2 flights up. And he said he wanted to see me, and he never called me up to his office. And I went up to his office. I was a little nervous, and, the door shuts behind me, and he locks it, and he looks at me, and the next minute I know he has his hand on my left breast.
Oh,
and this must have been about, I'm getting old, maybe 30 years ago or something like that. And I said, oh, no. And I moved his hand out. And with his other hand, he had a $100 bill right there. And I thought, how disgusting this is.
Yeah.
Somehow, through all the different episodes that I've had to navigate with men being inappropriate, I've always gotten out of it. Thank God, I say. Yeah. I have always, somehow, I made, and then he wanted me to come to his very expensive mansion because his wife wasn't going to be there on the weekend. I mean, I just couldn't believe any of it. His wife and his daughter were my very good friends, especially his daughter. And so I ended up telling his wife in one of the bathrooms that I knew didn't have any cameras or anything like that, and so did the wife know, because this was all a very, I don't know how to put it. He was a shady kind of a man, I'll just say, with this very big business. And so I asked to speak to her somehow, and we went into the outside near the elevator bathroom, and I knew she did that on purpose also for us not to be heard. And I told her what happened. And she looked at me, she said, oh, I'm so sorry. This has happened with other people in the business, she said.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And actually, it was a certain kind of school, but I don't want to go any further than that. She said, it's happened to the students.
Oh,
and I said, you know what? I said, you have to leave this man.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and said, well, I can't. And I said to her, well, I'm leaving. Now, I was a single mom raising 2 children, okay? I said, I'm leaving. She said, oh, no, we can't lose you. We can't lose you. Do you want an apartment in New York? We'll get you an apartment. At the time, I was living in Queens, where I had to travel to New York. I said, no, I have to leave, because, I lost. I already lost,
Right.
And so that's how I left New York. I left New York. I took my children and went to San Diego, where my sister lives. So that's just one part of so many stories I have.
Right.
Before I left New York, I contacted an attorney. I told the attorney everything, and I said, look, I'm leaving. Can you still work with me about this situation when I get to California? She says, of course I can. And what happened was, when I called him up from California, he never responded to me. And so that's how it was, the secrecy. The secrecy right now is being unveiled.
Sharon, I want to thank you so much for sharing something that you really kind of knocked me off my chair. I'm not necessarily surprised, but obviously this has been going on forever, and but again, when it hits close to home, it's moving. So I do want to thank you for your courage in coming forward, and wow, it's really
You're welcome.
Something. Yeah, thank you so much.
It has been going on. Thank you. It has been going on forever. Women didn't get to vote till 1920. And then, in 1960s, they were burning their bras trying to get equality. And then in the 90s, Anita Hill, and I'll never forget Anita Hill. I'll never forget her testimony. I'll never forget how embarrassing. I'll never forget what they put her through, because she brought accusations of sexual misconduct against Clarence Thomas. And it was, it became like a national consciousness that was also avoided and just dismissed. And Clarence Thomas became Supreme Court Justice.
Right.
And so after all they put her through, he ended up being where he is, and I ended up having to leave New York. And the attorney who said he was going to help me, he didn't help me. But that's just one of many.
I want to interject something here because obviously we hadn't, and our audience either hadn't planned on hearing this conversation. I do think this is something that has to continue, and
Yes.
I'm glad that it came up. I don't know if you're familiar with the show that I just did with John Rappaport, my second time interviewing him.
Oh, no, and I like him. I'll have to listen.
You may be interestingly surprised at the way we tackled this issue. This was really more from a conspiratorial or conspiracy, I should say, on the part of the media, and the question that I raised to him as to why this has become such a sustained campaign, if you will. But we're not going to go there right now. It's just an interesting, there are different aspects and entry points that we could look at this, what this is actually doing, what it's showing. I think the jury is still out, but, and the other thing that I think bears repeating, Sharon, and that is some of the darker aspects of this whole, sexual harassment is strong enough. But when we start to get into the pedophiles and the largeness of that and what that, and the darkness of that and what that entails, I have not gone into that in great detail on my show. There's plenty of information out there, but my only hope is that as ugly and dark as this is, it must, if this is going to open Pandora's box, take us down the rabbit hole, let it, so everyone knows the injustices, the heinous activity that's going on right now. Not naming names, but, is this just are we just seeing the tip of the iceberg? So I'm going to leave that there because we have so much to cover, and I'm going to be looking at this clock because, we can go for a couple of hours easily.
Oh, and I could go,
forever. But here, this is what I want to talk about because, again, so many marked events that have taken place throughout this year, one of which is the big solar eclipse that happened this past August.
Oh, yeah.
And that stirred, obviously, a lot of opinion, particularly in the metaphysical and spiritual community, on what the significance of that event was. And I even weighed in on my sense of what that may have denoted. But having this eclipse, what they call the Great American Solar Eclipse, occur in the 1 year, I think feels very significant. What do you think?
Well, I think it's opening us up to things beyond our power. It has to do with the metaphysical world. It has to do with God, our great creator and architect. I did predict, my words, rebirth and renaissance. And so this solar eclipse was something that none of us had any control over. We could either watch it or we could be there in person. But I believe, and in my own little microcosm here, speaking to people, we were all physically affected.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it just let us stop. We actually stopped. We stopped everything. And if we didn't want to, it was mass media coverage, so we had to stop. Things stopped. And actually it was like a curtain opening to unveil things that we had no control over. And it had to do with the secrecy and the truth coming out, that the universal power, who it might be, the power that guides us, whether we believe or not believe that there's one source, has the whole control issue as far as elements, as far as weather, as far as our time goes on this planet. To me, it's all an experiment. It's a holographic experiment.
Very interesting. Elaborate on that. Go ahead and elaborate on that. That's a very interesting comment that you're making.
Well, I really feel that, it's quite interesting, Alexis, because I was talking to a very big religious leader the other day on the phone. Actually, it was yesterday. And I started talking about UFOs, and I started talking about artificial intelligence and crop circles and all these kind of things that for the last few months I have been intensely motivated and interested in.
Really?
And this religious person who knew I was going to, be researching these topics said, oh, well, don't give it much, it's all about God. It's not about all this or whatever. Sort of dismissed it and mentioned, I wouldn't really think about that too much. It's God and all that. So I hung up, and again, I'm right in front of the TV because that's what I do. And there it was that they were going to finally expose the files of the secrecy of the UFOs right there, right after I had this.
I know.
And I thought,
quite a headline.
It always happens to me, the synchronicity of things, that I am totally aware of things manifesting right in front of my eyes that are just blow me away. It has to do with people in high position, high power, people who are worldly. I get information and then it's on the news. It's always, or I'll have a dream about them, Oprah Winfrey or whoever. I mean, I don't really know her, but we all think we know her because she's televised so many years, but I actually know what's going on. It's unbelievable.
It's so funny that as I listen to you tell this and express this with such enthusiasm. Now, Sharon, you and I both know, as well as your many clients over the years, that you are incredibly in sync, and yet it never ceases to amaze you. I can hear it in your voice. It's amazing. You are a synchronicity magnet, of course. But here's
unbelievable. The things that happened to me. Right. I'm going to give you this silly thing that happened. I am in my office right now talking to you. And I would say it was probably a year ago or so. And I was looking out. I have a wonderful view of sagebrush and everything. And I said to myself, gee, if I only had a tree over here. I looked out the window. If I only had a tree there, it would block the neighbors. And that would be perfect because then I have it all blocked and I have my privacy. So I said, okay, remember that bush now, so when you walk outside, you'll know where it is that you wanted the tree. I walk outside, and there's the tree. A wild, tiny piñon tree that a bird must have came and dropped a seed that I never saw or knew was right in that place.
I love it. What do you say to that?
I stood there in awe. I called up a friend in New York immediately. I said, you will never, ever believe this news story. It's a miracle. She said, oh, you always have miracles. I said, no, but you have to listen to this because, and when I told her the story, she said, only you could see something like that before you really saw it.
Right. I'm going to interject something though, Sharon, because I want to keep this as well. It's flowing beautifully where it needs to go. But you're talking about synchronicity. I too feel myself to be somewhat of a magnet for synchronicity. However, I want to go back to this. Let's use this eclipse back in August as sort of a demarcation point. And all of these very interesting, wild, wonderful, anomalous things started burgeoning, including I have more of my audience, I have to tell you, reporting constant synchronicity. People that I'm meeting on the street that are not normally into this sort of discussion, talking about strange things happening to them. The numbers, and we're going to get into the numbers. I'm not letting you off the hook this time. We're going to talk about the 1111s and the double numbers and why now. But would you agree, I've asked several of my guests this question, that this period of time, so-called time, be it a construct or not, denotes something very significant in terms of the metaphysical bleed-throughs, the experiences that people are having. Again, what on earth is going on? Too many questions, I know, but
that's interesting. Yeah, bleed-throughs. I like the way you said that.
Yeah.
Although the word bleed kind of gets me like, oh God. But no, here's what's happening. You are 100%, and you see as I see a lot of times because we are searching and we are uncovering the truth in our own way, and it appears that way. It appears to us because we're open and receptive to this. All these strange things that people are seeing or knowing or feeling, it is the beginning of a new paradigm, as you say, and that the truth is all coming out, and we're headed into a time, this new year that's going to start in January 1st, 2018. It's all about metaphysical and truth.
Wow. So you're agreeing that we are indeed going to see the what that has in store for us, both esoterically and exoterically, the surface and beneath the surface, which I happen to feel everything rises from the metaphysical. But interesting perspective, Sharon Millstein. I want to talk about the numbers. I'm looking at the clock because I know the people, I think it was last year, there was so much to talk about, and there always is, of going through what has transpired thus far. People were like, we need her to talk more about what's coming. So I'm going to make sure our audience is happy and we talk about what's coming. But before we let the review go, and this is going to bleed into 2018, I'm certain, I want to talk about the double numbers. Got to get into that. As you and I were talking before we went on the air, I saw 111. I don't have to get into it with my audience. My audience knows how much I see these numbers. I've talked about it. I've sliced and diced every which way. I'm comfortable with the fact that I probably will never have an ultimate answer, but I love to get perspective. Again, now I'm hearing from so many, including myself, it's not just the 11s, 22334455. I'm to this day getting emails, oh my God, Alexis, me too. Can you please give us a perspective as a numerologist of what this means? If you can add anything, because I think you were onto something before with it. I'm looking at the clock, it's 44 after the hour. It happens every time as we speak, 44 after the hour. Okay, Sharon, take it away.
So, I think only God has the answers to these things, but as a numerologist and a person who has studied numbers for many years, it seems to me that it has to do with getting our attention, of course. Even people who don't know about numbers per se, they're stopping, they're going, oh my God, it's 111, it's 222, it's 333, it's 444. Now, I myself don't remember as much seeing 555 or something. I don't remember that sticking or just, adhering to my brain. But every number has its vibration. It's all about vibrations. And somewhere in the world at that time, some big event is happening. But these ones, we look at things in a compound way, but numerologists also look at things in a singular digit way to get the essence of the vibration. Now, if we take that 111, the 1 is new beginnings. It reminds us of the navigator and the adventurer, the pioneer. We see pioneers in women right now. So it's pioneers. It's the new paradigm. It's all about getting our attention, and it also has to do with a cultural group of people that are getting this frequency. So if it's 111, it's really a 3, and what is a 3? It has to do with the network of people, the social part of people. It really has to do with the individual, which is the 1, and it has to do with the combined compound number of 111 being a 3, which has to do with the social culture, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with all the newness. This is all happening right now, this metaphysical newness.
Right. But I hear you, excuse me, very well on that. But there's something else I'm really trying to get at, Sharon, in terms of doubles. Rather than looking at, we understand that, frankly, numbers are a language in and of themselves, and a very powerful one at that. Are. They have a distinct vibration and a signature. And yet I'm sort of looking at, rather than what a given number denotes, a pattern of seeing doubles, whether it's 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and so on. And it's manifesting in different ways with different people. It's just happening more of the time. What, in your estimation, would the doubles, just doubles, everything doubled,
Well,
would
it's
that
doubles
denote?
and triples. It's doubles
And triples. That's correct. Absolutely.
And the triples are really, it's attention getting. I mean, it has to do with opening up the secrecy of communication. It really does. Just like, going off into just putting in another subject of the crop circles. All of those things are getting our attention because the patterns are so unique, and it all gets broken down to numbers, which have to do with communication. Language is different all over the world, but numbers are all the same. And numbers are as old as the universe. And I think they all stick out to remind us that our language that we're communicating with is not the only language. And so I do believe that another kind of artificial intelligence has to do with these double and triple digits. I really do.
Very interesting. I have addressed that in the past in terms of a couple of, you have said a couple of buzzwords that I really wish we had 3 hours to talk, double or triple the time to talk, because you're bringing up some terms that, if you follow my show, and my audience obviously knows, I've covered the holographic model of the universe under the auspices of quantum theory, as well as artificial intelligence and the implication of that and where those two things coincide. And interestingly, Sharon, I've never heard you bring up those subjects coupled with your interest in ufology now, the UFO phenomenon. You said that these things are relatively new in terms of catching your attention. May I ask where that came from? What triggered that?
Yeah, it's always been sort of a vague thing because I always have an interest in digging deep, but it in the last few months, it has been an extraordinary interest of mine. And I have been doing some research, and again, I'm only at the infancy of discovery. But I believe all of this, the triple numbers, getting our attention, really has to do with another, and I know I may sound very strange to some people because I never really talked about this much. But like I said, I talked to a very religious, big time leader yesterday about this subject and how it could connect with, religious, outlooks and such. And a lot of people really don't want to touch it because, it's unknown. But I believe it has to do with another entity, whatever you want to call it, an intelligence of another source trying to get through. These are messages. It's not just our languages that are different, like the Tower of Babel I once talked about, that it's becoming, but also it has to do with the messages, and that's what we're going into. I can't really wait to talk about it.
We're going to get there now. I think it's time to go there now, because this is a great segue. Because, here's the thing. I have to say this, Sharon. We've been doing this for 5 years. It's our 5-year anniversary. And every time I approach doing the show with you, I think to myself, we're talking about a new set of criteria, perhaps, a number that's associated with a year. This is all about time and space and demarcation between one year and the next. But I have to tell you, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, if time is, in some circles, in some discussions, it's been questioned as to the validity of time in and of itself to begin with, simultaneous time.
Yes.
Really, we're talking about a continuum. So there really is no demarcation point. Hence the reason why I want to now flow from 2017 into 2018, because I doubt very much that what we're seeing right now is going to have a hard demarcation once we hit January 1st. So let's use that as a segue. What is going, where will this 2017, the 1 year, the number that all other numbers follow, take us in 2018?
So that, yes, I'm glad you said that, because again, I mentioned this before. Number 1 is the first number in which all the other numbers follow. And I talked about a blank canvas or blank pages in a book, remember? So whatever you put in the number 1 year, which we're still in right now, is going to manifest, and it's going to flavor the whole 9-year cycle. So all these new things that are happening, the power and the energy and the vibration behind women exposing some of these high-powered men that have gotten away with this conspiracy of secrecy are being unveiled. A lot of things are being unveiled in a very metaphysical way. Even, the president, I don't even want to mention his name anymore, really. I just I just tell you that it all has to do with, you're fired and constantly trying to clean up and renew and start again, the number one. So, yes, everything that started in this year is going to continue. That means all the metaphysical digging, all of the power of the people that know their power now are going to be running the show, not the government,
That's very encouraging.
The government this very powerful government, yes, it's powerful. However, there's power in numbers, as you can see.
Literally, as we can see.
Yes, literally. We even see this with groups of dogs. What do they call it? It's sort of a what is that word?
A pack?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, a dog could, I have animals here. A dog could be the sweetest kind of, submissive dog in the world. Put that dog with 5 or 6 other dogs, which I do occasionally with a dog visit. That dog's whole personality changes because there's power, there's security, there's support, and they all are primal. They become their primal selves.
Interesting.
And we are now moving into a very primal time. Very primal.
Well, I hope I'm not going to steal your thunder here, but I love to do my research, Sharon. And in looking at the synchronicities and all the things that are building up that I know for sure are going to bleed through into the following years, I had to look up, I admit I went to one of the big numerology sites to learn about what others say about the 2-year. If I may, I want to just read something to you because it blends right in perfectly with what you just said. It says, as the most feminine among all numbers, the 2, which is the year we're about to go into, is also the most underestimated, at least when it comes to power and strength. After all, she is almost always gentle, tactful, diplomatic, forgiving, and understanding. Certainly she likes to keep the peace and will avoid confrontations as much as possible. But if you look at the shape of the 2, however, you will recognize a symbolic representation of the ultimate survivor and an extremely resilient force.
Yes, you did step on my toes a bit just now.
But you just made the point. You just made the point. You did it. You already said it.
But I didn't say enough about this.
Go ahead.
Now, the thing that I really want to say, and also the school of thought in which I have learned, is that it is not going to be a 2-year. And I also look things up, but I look them up just to see if they're on the same page as me. It's part of research.
Right.
And I have seen incorrect information. And so I'm here to correct the information.
Go for it.
And according to Kevin Quinn Avery, DMS, Doctor of Metaphysics, and who really was around many years ago, the school of thought in which I have learned, and I believe in, is that, yes, the numbers go from 1 through 9, because every compound number is broken down to a single digit by adding the numbers together until you come to one single digit, which is the essence of the vibration. Except number 11. Except number 22. Those are 2 numbers you never break down to the single digit. What you do is you put, now everybody pay attention to this so you'll understand. You write 11, then you put a slash, and then you put a 2. That is the proper way of honoring an 11.
Say that one more time, Sharon. Say that again.
Write down number 11 on a piece of paper. Then put a slash. And then put a number 2. And that is how...
I see.
That is the proper way of honoring this very big metaphysical number.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say.
You did?
I did. Well, I did. Well, you know me. We're always in sync.
Yes, we are.
I realized that as well. As soon as I added 2018, I said, wait a minute, that's 11. And I wonder if that will sort of put the 2 aside, because 11 and 22 actually are a master number.
Yes. Yes,
so I kind of was there. I was there, but that makes perfect sense. And I went to a few sites, and that has been brought up as well. Very interesting.
Yeah, but a lot of them are giving the wrong information to people, and I don't like that. I just, it goes against all my years of studying and respecting numbers as I do. And so when I see something like that, I just think, you guys are wrong. You're giving wrong info. And you're taking away the biggest quality of what is about to happen, what is going to continue because of the one that we're in now, flavoring the 9-year cycle. Now we're going into the next part of developing what we started or what was shown to us.
This is blowing me away. This part, there's always a section in our talk where you just have to pause, pause and take it in, and the numbers 11. And you know what else I did, Sharon, in preparation for our talk today? I added January 1, 2018. When you put 1 and 1 together, you get 11. And 2018, 11. So essentially, on January 1st, 2018, to me, I see 11, 11.
One moment. So we have a lot of ones actually.
Yeah.
We have it's quadruple really, because 2018, as I mentioned, is an 11 over a 2. That's how I say it. That's how I write it. And then January 1st is another one and another one. It comes out to a 4 altogether. However, there is a quadruple 1.
That's right.
So that was really astute of you to mention that, because you still have to honor the single numbers as well as the compound number being broken down. Do you know that the most incredible ancient pyramids and buildings in China that were made and structured in eons ago, all were based on mathematical formulas that modern technology could never duplicate, even now? So the power of the numbers are significant. And I do believe that artificial intelligence, and there's different kinds of artificial intelligence. There's computers in 3D that are making, body parts, but I'm talking about the mysterious connections that these other entities are trying really to connect and give us messages. January 1st is giant. It is giant.
Wow.
It's a giant.
You're confirming, and this is why it was chomping at the bit to have you back on, Sharon Millstein, because you are really confirming what I think a lot of people have been saying. There's something happening here, and there's some connection, I feel. And I just did, I believe it was my last conscious commentary, it was a short segment that I do, on the artificial intelligence meets the simulation model, by the way, which is a big discussion point, even in mainstream scientific circles, that we may be living in some sort of a virtual reality. And the coinciding of those and the fact that we're seeing these numbers so prevalent, so prominent right now, may be showing, it's almost like the universe is showing us its hand of what this universe is made up to begin with. Does that make sense?
And it has to do with cutting through the babble, the languages, because this is the universal language, numbers. And I do believe that these extraterrestrials that are doing the crop circles and the pictographs on these ancient caves and such, in Egypt we found many, and also there's a place, some other, I'm trying to remember, Scandinavian country that's getting this information as well. Anyway, long story short, the only way to get through in a worldwide vibration is numbers. And I do believe that the beneath the veil or behind the veil of secrecy and mystery, that there's a yearning to connect. And that's what we're going into. There we go, the connection. Oh, my God, yes.
Isn't
100%.
it something? Let me just tell you, the numbers are, to me, this is what we're going to be seeing more in our future, more in the coming year. So I like to think of this as sort of a forecast as well. But before we leave the hard subject of numbers, I have to tell you, when I finished preparing my notes for our interview today, Sharon, just before I closed the document, I noticed the word count on the page was, drumroll, 777. The word count, 777.
Wow. Oh, my. Yeah, you're pretty amazing.
No, it's not me. It's the universe.
No, but it's it's your receptivity and recognition of this under the veil understanding and connection. You really are connecting the dots. And I guess I do that as well.
It's a big dot connecting exercise, man. I got to tell you, it's a big one.
And we're going into it. Yeah, we're going into this triple thing happening. And it is triple in a way, because 11 over 2 is triple. Well, it's triple in the sense that we have 3 numbers involved, actually, in this 1 year.
Interesting.
I mean, in this next year coming.
This next year. Let's talk about some of the things that you see in terms of vibrationally, in terms of, where do we go from here? With obviously, there's so many things left undone in this 1 year that certainly won't be wrapped up. But how will what we're seeing play out now, carry on in the next year, or what new might we see introduced, and both esoterically and exoterically?
It's a continuum. It is a continuum. It has to do with the development. We're at the development stage, or we're going into the development stage, because what has been shown to us, the power, the vibrations are going to continue and develop, and it takes quite a long time to get things, placed in stone. Just like we talked about a little while ago, the women's movement. I mean, 1920, they finally got to vote, even though, in the late 30s, World War II, they were going ahead and doing all the men jobs, but not getting paid for it while the men were out voting. The men were out working and being in military, fighting wars and such. Everything takes so long, from 1920s to the 60s, 40 years. Then we from the 20s to the late 30s, a bunch of years. From the 60s to the 90s of women's suffrage and Anita. What was her name again?
Hill. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Anita Hill. So everything, it takes a long time to develop. It's almost like when you're advertising in newspapers, people don't even see the advertisement for a while. Then maybe on the 13th week they notice it, and then maybe on the 20-something week they look for it. And so it seems like everything, it takes time in a sense, but yet everything is going so fast in another sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing about time, is that the development seems to take long, but our time here seems to be short, and everything seems to be going too fast, or so fast, and who made up this thing in time anyway, man?
Right.
This whole time.
Well,
yeah.
again,
come on.
The concept of time is starting to blur a bit for people. People have been talking for quite a few years at this point about time seems to be shortening, or our perception of it. Again, the revelation, the revealing of how the universe works, the true nature of reality. Perhaps we're finally getting a peek. I have to ask you this question. Every year that we've talked, Sharon, spoken, you have assigned an element to a given year.
Yes.
Last was water.
Yes.
What about this year?
Earth.
Coming. Earth.
Oh boy, Earth again. Remember we talked about Earth a couple of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you said to me, "What do you mean Earth? What do you mean?" And I said, "The opening of Earth." And this is where I saw a clear picture and I don't exactly, sometimes the interpretation isn't exact because I get these informations and then it becomes the reality, but it has to do with the earth opening under our feet, the earth. So what does the earth do? Well, when the earth is opened, it exposes, it exposes us. It exposes what is beneath the earth. Like the people who do this digging under the earth, I'm trying to think of the word, archaeologists, yes. The archaeologists who are digging and unearthing, right? Unearthing. They are finding all of these different kind of artifacts that has to do with unveiling humans, different sized skulls, Neanderthal and Homo sapien, different kinds of skulls that were naturally produced in the human. They were now bound because some cultures bind heads and feet and all these kind of things. But the archaeologists are discovering, beside the dinosaurs and how the climate was at the time and the elements were, we're going to see more of that. All the mysteries are going to be coming to fruition. All the mysteries are going to be uncovered and unveiled, whether it's archaeologists digging past the surface, but it's also the people digging past the surface to understand the whys and the wheres of the universe. This is where the continuum, the development is. It also has to do with, and I saw this picture, and I can't particularly make a reference to how it is, but I saw a giant opening of the earth.
Wow.
Like I said, I can't tell you if it was a meteorite or if it was a bomb. I'm just telling you something significant.
Wow. Listen, this is really something. I really don't know what to say. You know what I'm going to do, though? Yeah. I'm going to take a very, very brief break because it sounded like, I have to tell you the truth, the earth just opened in front of my house. So we're going to, I need to see what's going on. Something just happened. I'm going to,
oh my God.
We're going to have a quick pause and we will be right back. What would you do if the beloved pet you had to put down only months ago suddenly showed up at your doorstep? Or you had a dream that your animal companion told you they would be returning to you. Hi, I'm Alexis Brooks, and after having my own amazing animal return experience, I've put together a compelling presentation called The Evidence for Animal Reincarnation, Clues, Characteristics, Confirmation, that include miraculous stories just like mine that happen to real people just like you. You'll hear powerful accounts of animals returning to their owners after they've died. You'll find out if you can actually encourage your lost pet to return to you and ways to learn whether they already have. Take a deep dive into the historical beliefs around reincarnation. Learn about synchronicity, intuition, and even dreams and how they all factor into this miraculous phenomenon. To learn more about this unique presentation and to purchase your copy, visit higherjourneys.com/animal reincarnation. That's higherjourneys.com/animal reincarnation. And maybe you too will witness the return of your animal friend that you've been so longing to see. You're listening to Higher Journeys Radio with Alexis Brooks. And now, back to our program. Okay, everyone, we're back. Sharon got
opening.
Right. Sharon got me going, so I had to go outside. It was one of those synchronistic things in which I heard a boom the moment you said that. Everything is fine, folks. We're all set, and the timing, I suppose, is good. My heart's still racing a bit. So we're going to be winding down because we're actually close to the end of the hour. We're okay. But
I hope we could get more into this year coming because I have some predictions.
I'm going to have you give them to us quickly. We, as always, spent so much time. We only have a short hour, and we're almost at the hour mark.
Wow.
So because there was so much to cover, obviously, with what on earth is going on. So if you could please give us a little snapshot, a little flavor for what you have up your sleeve.
Okay, so we have two things going on. We have the 11, and we have the number 2. And here's what we can look forward to as we're talking about the number 11, okay? So number 11, as I mentioned, is a master number. And it really has to do with the potential of people. That we have the potential to really see through our dream state and through our meditation, if you will, to really be able to put ourselves in a position of a higher consciousness, okay? So we have the potential of the people to be the very best that we can be. And in 2017, we broke the mold with women's rights and political upheaval. But in 2018, that mold that was broken will change and continue. So the 11 itself has to do with being the seeker of God, getting messages straight from above, digging past the surface to really understand and uncover the whys and the wheres of the universe. There is no question why files are now being released, secret files of artificial intelligence and UFOs, because in October of any given year, we start feeling the next number coming through, which is the 11. It also has to do with, like I said, getting messages straight from above. It's godly. So whoever is on this particular, I call it like a laser beam of vibration, will be able to get messages that other people may not get because they're not in that place yet, and they're too new of a soul. But so they might be misinterpreted, their actions, because it's a very metaphysical year that we're going in. And it's not really a time to promote oneself, especially financially. But again, I'm taking it out of context and giving you the universal year as opposed to a personal year of somebody, which that's what we do in numerology. We put numbers together and it becomes a picture. It's like a puzzle putting together. So we're getting messages from above, and then we need to go within to mine our potential gems, really. It has to do with blending and balancing also of the number 1 and the number 2. Now, I say this because 11 has to do with 2 ones, and those are very masterly numbers. But the simple vibration, if you look at the 2 of the 11, is a very feminine number. So 2
this is where we get the
feminine.
feminine. Okay, gotcha.
And the feminine has to do with a culture of support, really, because women, that's what females do. And it has to do with, it's a dual number representing partnerships, association, love, cooperation. Working with others and using their ideas is the main thing, that message to give people. When we break down this 2018, we still have to look at 2018. And as we're talking now that the 2 has to do with working with others, using their ideas, which may open up this concrete, fixed kind of mind that people have. And then the 0 means a lot of little things, but it's not as significant as the 1 in 2018. Since we are still in a 1 year, and I've mentioned it, it has to do with the independence and also the leadership, but it has to do with new resources, that we are going to uncover new ways of being able to find and use our resources. It has to do with the new ideas. beside the fact of the artificial intelligence, which has to do with the robots and self-driving cars and drones and electronics. But a lot of this is going to cause havoc in a way. So it has to do with, the planes are going to be affected, everything in the sky, the birds. It has to do with the privacy from the drones going to be affected. And what I see coming up is more frontier justice, so to speak. Frontier justice. The momentum of the people branching into individual groups. But then it causes babble because people are so different. We all have two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, but we all have that, but yet we all are different. So this new frontier of justice is going to spread into smaller and smaller groups with the same thinking mind, so to speak. The 8 in the 2018, the 8 really is, I call 8 the AAA.
Say again?
I call number 8 a AAA.
A AAA.
Attainment, achievement, accumulation. 8 has to do with energy, and money is energy. However, it's also karma, and it's also war. So 8 has that kind of energy, and it also could be economic havoc.
Okay. Well, it's interesting when you mentioned karma particularly, because I recall we having a discussion about a particular year having a huge karmic influence, and I couldn't recall what the year was. And I thought, well, that's interesting because it seems like where we are right now, there's been a lot of karmic repercussion with the, as we know, the sexual misconduct allegations, etc. But it's so
2015.
Right. But what you're saying is we're going to see more of it. See, this is where I maintain the continuum is present here, because it looks like we're almost getting a taste of those karmic repercussions that are clearly going to go into this coming year, right?
Well, yeah, because it's uncovered,
Wow.
It's uncovered this year in all these different modalities, and now it's going to be developed more, so we're going to see more. I mean, I was really shocked yesterday when I walked into the TV room from the office after speaking to somebody about all of these AIs, artificial intelligence, and UFOs, and crop circles, and petroglyphs, and then I see it on TV. You see, so I'm always getting the information first.
Sure.
Yeah. And it makes me appear anxious, but it's because I'm getting information that nobody got yet.
Well,
I mean, I'm getting it. I'm sure other people are getting it.
You're
too.
the receiver. Well, that's what I'm talking. I do think, obviously, you've got a proclivity toward these sorts of experiences, but what I maintain, I really do, Sharon, is that whatever is happening right now, I've said it so much, I sound like a broken record, the veil between us and everything else is thinning. And so what I call the metaphysical bleed-throughs are happening to more and more people. And they're happening to those of us that have been having it all along, double and triple the amount that they've been happening before. So it's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, people are becoming more aware. And,
absolutely.
I think there's also
we only have a couple minutes left, just so you know. We're going over, but go ahead, make that final statement.
Well, there's also going to be a lot of achievement in writing and art and science, of course. The people that dig past the surface to understand the whys and the wheres of the universe, it has to do with connecting the dots.
Connecting the dots.
And that is what's going to be happening right now. We're going to be on a different, it's almost like we're going to be on a different planet. I mean, things are evolving and being uncovered. And I walk around when I do. I'm usually pretty much a recluse here, because I'm so empathic, it's hard to be with people. But when I do interact with some people, they're from different planets. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm from Venus. I've always said it before without really studying it, because it has to do with love and nurturing. But there are people here that are from other planets, and I know it because their thoughts are so uncongruent to what's really going on in the world. It shocks me.
Yeah.
I am always in shock.
You're not
about
alone.
How
You're not alone in that.
I can't really be with a lot of, now I do very good readings with people. I've helped them tremendously. And that is a whole different story. It's a one-on-one with the vibrations. But when I see how people are working, I cannot believe how unconscious and how their consciousness is from a whole long time ago mind.
Well,
it's like they're stuck in a time warp.
Right.
You know?
I have to tell you, Sharon, well, listen, you're in good company, my dear, because our audience members, many of them that listen in, feel the same. I think there are quite a few of us that are, Dolores Cannon, the late now Dolores Cannon, spoke about a new earth and literally a splitting off of terra firma to another vibration, let's just say. So, listen.
I just want to say that I heard your show, Mary Rodwell, okay? She talked about the new children and everything. I listened to your show there. And I really don't usually listen to a lot of these things because I come up with my own stuff, and I don't want to be flavored by other people's notions and such. But, I feel in myself that I am an adult indigo child. Mm-hmm. I was born indigo. That's happened a very long time ago. She talks about new children, this Mary Rodwell. But these children have been here for a long time.
Oh, absolutely.
And now they're being, it's all being revealed.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
They're not being brought up correctly because it's always the standard matrix of how families are bringing up children, but it doesn't work with indigos. Right. They never do get us. They never do get us.
I do think that first of all, I agree with you in that I think that we've had that element of human on our planet for quite some time, but I think we all agree that they're coming in larger numbers. So thank you for that. Listen, my dear, you're taking me into a whole nother realm. We are so far over, we're going to have to leave it there. Tell us very quickly where you can be found, because I know there are people that are going to want to find you. Go ahead, Sharon. Where can they find you?
Well, they can email me. That's the best way, and it's info at Sharon Millstein, SharonMillstein.com. Info at SharonMillstein.com is the best way.
Beautiful.
And I love to help people. I
can attest to that, everyone. So don't barrage her, but definitely reach out to Sharon.
And I will call everybody back, and I enjoy inquiries. I enjoy calling people back and getting into helping them be the best that they're here to be on this planet.
Beautiful. Well said. From a person who always has some very, very in-depth things to say about some of the things that we may or may not be thinking too deeply about. It's really always a pleasure to have Sharon Millstein back on the show for number 5, since we've been talking so much about the numbers. So Sharon, thank you once again, and happy New Year.
Happy New Year, happy holiday season, happy Hanukkah. It's the time of light, brilliant light right now. I pray that it shines on all of us, especially people, the have-nots, and the people that are still trying to correct the destruction of flooding.
Thank you for that. All right. We thank you for tuning in. And again, happy holidays to everyone out there for Higher Journeys. Take care. It was refreshing and exciting to hear that as we look towards 2018, what will be revealed will have a more metaphysical tone, an atmosphere that I have always maintained is not an epiphenomenon of reality, but rather the basis for how reality works to begin with. No matter what will be revealed, let's keep our eyes, ears, and as always, our hearts and minds open and receptive. Thank you for joining me for this special annual edition of Higher Journeys Radio, and for making 2017 special for me and the team at Higher Journeys. We are so grateful for your ongoing support and for being willing to go on the journey with us. Until next year, I'm your host, Alexis Brooks.